This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Here are your hosts, Steve Collins and Greg Berg.
Hey, Coach. Welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. I'm so excited you decided to join us. Before we jump in, I'd just like to give a big shout out. First of all, to Coach Berg's site. He was so nice and kind of jumping in and doing this podcast with me. It's gberge.gumroad.com. Go over and check it out. He's got his team leader OS, which is awesome. Rocks. I'm just telling you. But he's got his all sorts of free preseason checklists, leadership things. Go over and check it out. And then go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. I would put it up, 14-day free trial. You can go and kick the tires around and look at everything and look at the preseason course and the off-season course and everything that you need to become a better basketball coach. That's how much I believe in this resource. It's something I would have wanted as a young coach. I think it's something that you'll want. So go over and check it out. And let's head off to the podcast. All right. Welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. I was just talking to Coach about this actual topic before we were jumping on. So I think we're just going to jump in because I think everyone does this a little differently. We're going to talk about captain selection. Go ahead, Coach. What's your thoughts on captain selection?
Well, first of all, I think the thing that we all need to understand is we don't need captains, but we do need leaders. Okay, that's step 1. I think number 2 is there's a lot of ways to select captains, and there's no right way or no wrong way. But there are some wrong ways, I think, to do it. And so I'm gonna go through a couple of, I guess, what do you think the most common way? Because in my work with Jeff Jansen, we got some data and some stuff on this. What's the most common way do you think that teams pick captains?
They sit in a room, they vote, and the person that gets the most votes becomes the captain.
Yep. I think that's like 32% of the time or something. That's the way it's done. And there's some pros to that, but there's also a lot of cons to that.
And then number 2
popularity contest.
Yep. And number 2 would be coach selects.
Yep. And that is number 2. And those are the 2 most common. And the positive with the coach selection is, as a coach, you think you get who you want. The negative is, just because you think they're a good captain or leader doesn't mean they have any influence or have the voice of the rest of their team or their teammates. And that can be a disaster when we pick someone to have a title and a leadership role that the kids don't even view someone that, they respect in some regard. And that just creates a lot of negatives. So, those are the 2 most common. There's other things. Another one that I'm not a huge fan of, but some do, is a seniority. So seniors are captains. They just assign.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's the 3rd most common, is seniors are captains. And I think you can imagine the challenge that's going to have, where in my mind, you create entitlement. It's kind of like, are your seniors entitled to all get to play just because they're seniors, or is everything earned? And I'm a big believer. Our whole mantra of our program, no deposit, no return, everything is earned. Playing time is earned, leadership is earned, all of that is earned. But yeah, the seniority one is I think a tough one. And then there's a lot of, there's rotation system, there's hybrid models where, maybe a player nominates themselves and then the coach kind of approves it. There's leadership councils on bigger teams. There's an interview application process. And then there's one, and I think you're going to go here, but no captain is selected. And that's an option. And then finally, the worst one is when you don't have leaders at all and the coach has to be the leader. And so there's a lot of ways to select.
The leadership
leaders.
council one intrigues me. One of my friends does leadership council. That does intrigue me because I think you get more voices.
You do. And I think for bigger teams like football teams, I think that's really a positive because you might have 50, 60, 70 kids in some regard, and you got position groups and you need leadership in each group. I know, Deion Sanders, their team is going crazy right now at Colorado, and he doesn't have captains. He calls them, I have leaders and I have dogs. That's what he called them, which I thought was interesting. But I think more and more people are shifting away from captains because it can create this positional authority thing, which can be really negative on a team. I think you have to do it right. I mean, if you have a captain, you really have to be clear with your kids what a captain means, what you're looking for. I know, and I can talk about what I generally do. I don't know if you want to talk about what you do or you want me to go first.
Well, I don't have captains per se.
Yep.
But it's also, there's a little bit of a legacy. Like you have captains at the beginning of the game that have to talk to the official.
Yeah.
But I've never in probably 15 years told who to go to center circle.
They just know.
They know.
I do a lot of that.
And they just go. And it's like, and we don't make a big deal about it because it's like, it might,
it really,
if the wrong kid goes to the center circle, the other leaders are going to tell them what are you doing? Like, go back to me. Like, and I've never had an issue of like, that person shouldn't be there. I've had maybe more than I want to go to that center circle, but I've never had someone like, ooh, no.
Yeah, they know.
And they know. And I like it. I like that in the sense that there's some ownership, and I want them to have ownership in it. But we talk about leaders, and as coaches, we're talking to specific kids about specific things. But the whole captain thing is either for grandma or your college resume, I think, half the time. And I tell them that. I mean, I'm pretty blunt about it. It's like, that doesn't make you the leader.
Correct.
And we have those discussions before that. And, and what's, COVID kind of put a little bit of step back that I had to reestablish some of these things, but it was just, things were just kind of passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Which is a huge cultural thing that I think as coaches, we can do a good job on too. But
yeah. And I think, what's really important for coaches, if you are going to select captains, and number one, I do it different every year. I look at my team. There are years I don't have captains, much like what you do. There's years where, but we talk about leadership all the time. We talk about leaders. We talk about collective leadership. We talk about the different types of leaders, which we've done. So, I mean, we talk about leadership. Now, captains are those, the people that go to the center circle and maybe have the connection with the officials at the beginning. But what I do at the beginning of the year is we have a 3-4 page document called a self-perception survey that I give my kids. And I do this for role definition. I do this for leadership development. And so kids, I'm guiding them through what I want in a leader, what I'm looking for in a leader. Who are the 3 toughest kids on our team? Who are the 3 most positive kids on our team? Who are the kids that you want with the ball in their hand at the end of a game? I guide them through these questions. And then at the end of that guiding, I ask them, based on everything that we just talked about, that is the makeup of a leader, if you had to pick 2 kids that are the 2 best leaders on our team, who would they be? And then they do that. And then I look at this and then I make a decision what I want to do with leadership after that. Because if I have 5-6 different kids that are all out there, I may not have captains. I may, and we're at this long enough. I kind of know, I know who I want our leaders. I want our
Right.
tone setters to match our captains. That's really my ultimate goal. The other thing I do with that is a little bit of a side note, but since we're talking about this self-perception handout, and this is probably a whole nother podcast, but we're in the preseason. I have the kids, okay? I say, if we had a game tomorrow, okay, who's going to be our top 5? And who are going to be our first 3 kids off the bench, and who's going to be our second tier off the bench. And I want you to list these out, including yourself in this list. Okay. So every kid confidentially makes a list of role
You do this preseason?
Yep.
And we do this, we do this postseason too, because and we do it for an entire program. So we don't tend to put the freshmen in, but sophomores through seniors, we do the exact same thing, because at postseason I want to have the discussion, and then I love that doing the preseason part too, because it's really about discussions. Like if you think you're number 2 and you're really number 12, then we got to have that. I love that perception thing.
I have it, and then we're both math nerds, so I take that and I put it on a spreadsheet and I average it out, and I take max and min, and everything. And I'm looking at the difference between what they rate themselves, where they think they're at, where the team is, and then where I think they're at. And I know before the season starts, because then I have my individual player meetings as we're starting the season, if I have to have a discussion with a kid because their role may not be what they thought. Right. And I always preface it, things change, roles change, but this is right now. If we had a game tomorrow, where would we be? And then where do you want to be? Where can you be? What are your goals? So
when do you do that in the preseason? When do you do that in the preseason?
I do it at our preseason meeting, which is when we get together before the first practice, usually the Thursday before the first practice. It's based on the summer.
After you selected the team, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, it's before, but we don't generally have to make cuts. I mean, when we have to make cuts, it's taking a couple juniors and maybe shifting them down to JV. We don't have to necessarily always cut. We've been pretty fortunate that way.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of
that's nice, because I probably cut more kids than you have in your team, probably.
Yeah. No, they kind of sort themselves out through through their development, and we're a smaller school, so I think that helps as well.
Yeah. I love that though, because it does give that perception. I like that. All right. Any other things on captain selection or thoughts on captains?
No, I think just in summary, you need leaders. You don't need captains. There's a lot of ways to select a captain if you choose so, but you need to be purposeful, and you really need to communicate with the kids what you look for in a leader. And I wouldn't even use the word captain, in a leader, and how that fits with your goals for your team. And I think that's the biggest message for coaches.
I think that name needs to change. Maybe that's the push we got to have. I mean, is it hockey that has the C on it? Like, I know
change
hockey.
It to an L.
Yeah, something like leader. It should be leader rather than captain. I know. Maybe that will be our big push. All right. Till next week, Coach.